Hey there, friends. Welcome back to As a Man Thinketh on UNASA TV. So this is an interesting story that I'm going to get to here in a minute. I'm going to show you how this works as well. In the state of Maine last year, I talked about how there were farms that were being bought back by the state of Maine due to PFAS contamination. Basically what happened is back in 2022, the state of Maine came out with PFAS, which are forever chemicals. They came out with a policy that said if you had more than 20 parts per trillion on your land, then they do that through soil testing and water testing, then you couldn't farm your land. The state of Maine put together a $31 million fund to compensate farmers and offer to buy back their land. Now, this is all completely fair, by the way. They've put together their own board of appraisers to appraise the property as if it was never contaminated and give them a fair rate of what should be an average of about $2,600 per acre. Where you can buy land for $2,600 per acre, I have no idea. But I'm sure it's completely fair. And I'm sure the state of Maine is doing this for the health of the public, right? We need to protect the public. Forever chemicals are one of those things that have come up in the last several years. And I'll tell you what really concerns me is that if you think 20 parts per trillion is bad now, it's basically like finding a drop inside an Olympic-sized swimming pool, right? EPA is coming out with a recommendation of 4 parts per trillion. So that would probably add a lot of farms to this list. The state of Maine actually shut down over 56 farms, and I think the list has actually grown since that time. And the way that they were able to identify these farms, I find interesting as well, is the state of Maine had a program for farmers where they would basically allow them or provide them with sludge to put out on their fields. And they sold it on the farmers as in, this is helping the environment, this is helping us recycle waste. And so when they came out with this policy and wanted to identify farms of high risk, they went to their list of everybody who had signed up for their sludge program and tested their farms and shut them down. See, the state of Maine had a program where they encouraged farmers to take sludge from the state and spread it on their fields. It's a great program because everybody who spread the sludge on their fields was now in a database of the state. Then all of a sudden, PFAS chemicals became a really big deal. And I say all of a sudden because we've been cooking our food on Teflon pans for about as long as I can remember, and those shed PFAS chemicals like there's no tomorrow. But the state said to them, you can't have PFAS chemicals in your land. You can't have a drop of PFAS chemicals per an Olympic-sized swimming pool in your land. Now they said you could keep your land, but you can't farm your land. Okay, so all these farmers are now stuck in a situation where they can't farm their land and make money off of it anymore. But the state had a solution for that too. The state offered to buy out their properties. And as a result, a lot of farmers sold out their properties to the state of Maine over PFAS chemicals, the same chemicals you and I have been eating off of since the 1980s. I'm not saying PFAS chemicals are good. I think that they're bad. I think we need to do everything we can to try and stop the continuation of processing and making these PFAS chemicals because they're getting into everything. But they already are in everything. And if they can get to the point where they can start using PFAS chemicals as a way to take land, oh my gosh, they're going to be taking so much land. Many of you have noticed that we keep wearing these leather patch hats that say Defend the Right to Farm on them. These leather patch hats support our nonprofit, Meet My Neighbor Productions. You can get your hat at UNASA Trading Co. and help us defend the right to farm through education, outreach, and, as we've been doing over the last couple of years, farm relief efforts. So get your leather patch hat and let others know that you defend the right to farm. I read an environmentalist's article the other day about Governor Kotek in Oregon, and how she surprisingly passed a law or signed off on a bill that would allow farmers in Eastern Oregon to spread sludge on their fields. And I thought, of course she did, because in 5 more years, she's gonna go back out there and say, oh, this is polluted, you can't farm it anymore, and bankrupt them. Everybody knows Eastern Oregon is under attack from the governor. So beware of these government programs, beware of what you're putting on your fields. It's just best to try and stick with organic matter. But I'm sure at some point, manure is also going to be a contaminant. In fact, it is in some places. They're already considering it a contaminant. All right, so I had to sit down for this one. The government wants to declare 10,000 acres of productive farmland a Superfund site because of PFAS contamination. This invisible boogeyman is going to put 10,000 acres of South Carolina farmland into a Superfund site, take it off of production. The Gailey and Lord textile mill, South Carolina itself, has been shut down for quite some time. But about 3 years ago, they declared the textile mill a Superfund site just based on the chemicals and things that came out of the textiles. And originally what had happened is they used to treat a lot of their wastewater in these wastewater lagoons. And then they would take the sludge out of it and convince farmers that it was good to put on their land. The government also convinced farmers that it was good to put on their land. According to Robert O'Neill, who farms soy, corn, and wheat, they said it was good fertilizer, that it would help our crops. They said, "This is so great for you, you can have it for free." And they even brought it to them. But as we now know, that sludge contained PFAS chemicals. The same things that are in your Teflon cooking pans and the same thing that you've been eating now for several decades. And like I said, I think it's a good thing that we do away with PFAS chemicals. I don't think that they're a good thing at all. But I've been warning on this channel that this PFAS chemical scare is going to be one of the largest land grab excuses we've ever seen in human history. Because it's everywhere. It's on your property. If you did a PFAS chemical check for, contamination in your soil, I'm sure you would find it in your backyard. It is everywhere. We've polluted the heck out of this earth. So according to the EPA records, between 1993 and 2013, Gailey and Lord Mill shipped more than 45,000 dry tons of sludge to more than 300 fields, totaling roughly 10,000 acres. The median property is thought to have received about 2.7 tons of sludge per acre. This isn't the first time that farmland has been considered a Superfund site. And it's not really clear if it will be considered a Superfund site. I mean, the Trump administration has had different policies on PFAS chemicals and how they plan on handling Superfund sites. But back in the 1930s and 40s, they came up with this great idea to lace bait for grasshoppers with arsenic poisoning and spread it on the fields to get rid of the grasshoppers. But that pales in comparison to the size and the amount of environmental contamination that this 10,000 acres in South Carolina would face. Basically, this 10,000 acres is still in the investigative stage. They have to go out, they have to test all the soil, they have to see how much PFAS chemicals are actually there. The bureaucracy is just currently saying that it's got to be contaminated because it was spreading the sludge that we suggested they spread on their farmland. But I do think, this is something that you have to be careful of, especially when you see people like Kotek, who are environmental crazies, spreading this type of stuff on farmlands. The government eventually will turn around. They've got you on a list. They know exactly where that stuff went to, and then they'll use it as an excuse to take your land from you. So my suggestion would be, if you have farmland, if you're buying farmland, make sure that none of this stuff was ever spread on it. But if you do have a farm, don't spread the sludge. The free stuff never is free. Anyway, guys, this was just a quick video today. I just wanted to bring this to your attention because this is something that I have been following now for over a year, these PFAS chemicals and the land grab that's going to follow up behind it. And like I said, this stuff is everywhere. They could come up with any excuse they want to. They're starting with these that are the most obvious, and they're making it the scariest picture they possibly can. And then from there, we're going to keep regulating the heck out of PFAS chemicals until there's not a drop of land in this country that can grow food on it anymore. There's got to be a different way that we can mitigate this. Obviously, stopping creating the chemicals that we're putting into the soil. And a lot of this is coming out of these mills. It's industrial waste, really. But it's made it everywhere because it's in the products that we buy at the store. And, people have been burying stuff on their properties for years. I mean, PFAS are the microscopic boogeyman that's around every corner. The question is, how do we handle moving forward in a way that doesn't destroy people's livelihoods, that doesn't give the government an excuse to take thousands, tens of thousands of acres away from farm production? And are we going to face the reality that, yes, this is a pollutant, but it's one that we've already exposed ourselves to. Now we need to take a responsible retreat from. But does that retreat necessarily mean shutting down our farms? I think that's a bad idea. I think we're going to starve people to death.
Ancient eras and natural selection have refined and tailored pristine fibers with the resilience for today's days. Evolving beyond the last ice age, bison wool is nature's most dependable activewear. Buffalo Wool Company, 100% proven by nature, 100% American made.
Check out the Buffalo Wool Company collection at yanasatradingco.com.